हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। Om. So namaste everyone. Today we'll be looking at the value of ahimsa, and I'll just like assign the reading order over here based on whoever is already there. You can edit it later.
You want to play the Dhyana shlokas?
Oh, right. So we'll start with the Dhyana shlokas. Very good. Thanks for reminding me. Probably we won't all get a chance to read today just because this is one topic and I think we should probably cover that in detail. So
प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलम् गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम् नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितम् लोके सज्जन षट्पदैरहरः वेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद्भारत पङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः।
Okay, so oh yeah, the Dhyana Shloka text is it's actually it's a separate file that I have. I'll send it to you. But yeah, it's also there in the Gita. So if you go through the Bhagavad Gita on, I think it's after the basic introductions to the terms and stuff. There's a Dhyana Shloka section, and then there's the context of the Gita, and then the chapter 1 starts. So this is basically extracted from there. Let's open the file. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about ahimsa. Shall we just start reading and then we'll discuss along the way?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Ahimsa. Ahimsa comes from the Sanskrit verb himsa, which means to hurt, injure, or cause harm. Ahimsa, which means non-injury or non-harmfulness, reflects my inherent desire to live free of hurt or pain or threat of any sort. Even thoughts can cause pain. If I know that someone holds hurtful thoughts about me, although these thoughts are not expressed in deeds or words, I am hurt. Ahimsa means not causing harm by any means, by deeds, kayena, by words, vacha, by thoughts, by kayena, by deeds, vacha, by words, manasa, by thoughts. Why should I not hurt other beings? Because I do not want to be hurt. Common sense ethics dictate that I cannot do to another what I do not want to be done to me. So ahimsa, non-injury, becomes a value for me. Ahimsa is simple common sense dharma, confirmed by the Vedas and by all scriptures but subject to interpretation. If an act literally injurious is meant for the benefit of another, such as the cut of the surgeon's knife, it is not himsa. In a relative world where one life form feeds on another, absolute ahimsa is impossible. Therefore, this is a value which particularly requires understanding and interpretation. Vegetarianism.
Wait, what's the next one? Sorry. That's the next heading. Any discussions here? Basically, the Shastras say ahimsa parmo dharma. So whenever there's a conflict between ahimsa and the other values that we hold, we should always place ahimsa at the forefront. So can you think of any examples where one might face such a conflict and ahimsa would have to prevail?
I can think of a situation where ahimsa cannot prevail.
Okay.
I mean, obviously the India-Pakistan conflict.
Are you talking about the war?
Yeah, probably sometimes India might have to go on a war with Pakistan if it continues to support terrorism.
Absolutely. So this is still in support of ahimsa only, right? It is a very expression of ahimsa because of the fact that if the war, which is inevitable, is delayed, then it will cause more and more destruction until and unless we actually go through with it. So even if you take the example of the Kurukshetra, the war fought in the Mahabharata, it was imminent. It was not something that could be delayed. It was something that may have led to short-term injury, short-term himsa, but in the long term, it actually protected the greater ahimsa. The principle of ahimsa remained protected only because of the fact that the disease was killed before it spread too far. So similarly, this is exactly what is said over here. If an act literally injurious is meant to benefit another, such as a cut of a surgeon's knife, it is not himsa. So here, if you if the surgery is necessary and it's required, then though the surgeon's knife may cause some harm, it might cut through your skin, it might cut through parts of your organ, tissues, and so on. It's still protecting a larger himsa from spreading, or larger like disease from spreading. So similarly, if you have a war, for example, right? Again, this is all a complicated process, but suppose Pakistan is creating proxy terrorists, it's sending proxy terrorists to Kashmir, it is feeding into the separatist movement, it is creating all sorts of trouble for India. And if a war is required in order to stop this long-term issue, then definitely it is not himsa, as Pujya Samji says himself, that if you have to get rid of a disease, then that's not himsa. And here, if you have to get rid of some adharmic elements in society, then one has to fight a war for that. So I don't think ahimsa is violated. In fact, it is preserved if dharmika yuddha is fought. So there's no real example where one should violate ahimsa in order to uphold something else, because the greatest good will always be in the interest of protecting ahimsa.
But I think that's still not a rigorous argument because I mean, how can you say that there's no chance for the enemy, if you want to call them so, there's no chance for the enemy to change at some point in time without I mean, if we don't resort to war.
It's speculative, right? I mean, we know what we have in the present. We know the past trends. You can build a forecast, perhaps. You can extrapolate it to the future based on the means of inference that this is what they've done. 1965 war, 1971 war, this war, that war, Kargil war. They've never improved, and if anything, they've become more and more extremist over time. So again, this is only giving a consideration. I'm not saying one should fight a war with Pakistan, one should not fight. What I'm saying is that any two nations that have to fight a war, you look at the historical trends, you see whether there has been some progress or not. And if things are on the decline, then definitely if there is a need, you should fight a war. All I'm saying is that I don't think that fighting a war is actually himsa. Fighting a war in the greater longer term is protecting ahimsa, and that is the only reason one should ever fight a war, so that a harm that is caused in the future may be subverted. If you look at World War II, yeah.
So I do agree with you, probably based on my own bias. So, but still, I'm still not able to see this objectively in the sense that for sure this person is not going to change. So I have to fight him out.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Then, are you saying or are you implying that the Mahabharata war that was fought was himsa?
Probably yes.
So then you are actually, see, we have to take Shastra as a pramana, so we cannot rely on an individual's opinion, right? Here, Bhagwan himself is, you know, going forward with this course of action. He is reminding Arjuna that you are a Kshatriya, your duty in this particular battlefield is to go out and wage a war against the adharmic elements that we have in front of us, which are the Pandavas. And
No,
in order
so
to, yeah.
no, I view that differently. So this guy, the soldier, has gone to fight a war, and on the battlefield, he's saying that I can't fight the war now.
No, but I mean, no, we go back a little bit, right? Krishna he goes to the court of Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra's court. He goes forward with a peace treaty on certain terms. That, okay, here, these are your brothers, they have been kicked out of the kingdom, and this half of it rightfully belongs to them. So are you willing to share half of the land with them? And Duryodhana says, no, I'm not going to do that. He says, okay, chalo, there are five people. Are you ready to share five provinces for each of the brothers? He says, no. Are you ready to share five villages? No. Are you ready to share five homes? No. Are you ready to part with one home with five rooms? No. And ultimately, Duryodhana says that I will not even give you one pinpoint of land in my kingdom. And so obviously this is adharma prevailing. You've created something, and this anarchy, or not anarchy, but this misrule, this dictatorship of Duryodhana would continue for many generations because of the trends and the laws that he sets. And therefore Krishna himself says that, okay, in that case, war is unavoidable. We have to fight the war in order to get rid of people like you. This is the whole thing, right? So here the war is fought in order to protect dharma, and the highest dharma is ahimsa, and ahimsa will prevail as long as you have a good leader who is supporting a righteous kingdom. If we take the teaching of the Gita as a pramana of Krishna Bhagwan, then in that case one should not be second guessing his decision, but rather we should be doubting our own conclusions based on what we infer from the given situation. So, if all the great acharyas have also spoken about the same truth, that okay, this is something that could not be subverted, and everybody was in favor of the fact that the Pandavas rule. So I feel that it's a very important thing to conclude that one should always give the benefit of the doubt, especially when it's coming from somebody like a Bhagavan, right? Krishna Bhagavan was an
Sure.
avatar. He was not an ordinary person. So
Of course, I think I'm no expert on Mahabharata, so I mean my understanding of Mahabharata is very limited. So I don't think I'm qualified to comment on anything in Mahabharata. So we'll just push it to an offline discussion.
all right, sure. So Nityaji, would you like to read this subheading?
We can't hear her.
Nityaji, you'll have to unmute your mic or something.
Sorry. Is it okay now?
Yeah, it's better.
Yes. Thank you. I just want to go back to this discussion on ahimsa. I just have a small question.
Yeah.
Here we have ahimsa. Even it's not only war that the impact of war. It is even the ahimsa. It's himsa that we do by thoughts.
Yes.
We are having some what do you call, not a very good thought about somebody else. Even that is not ahimsa by the definition. So how do we control that, by words? We hurt a lot of people by our words,
Right.
or we get hurt by a lot of words spoken by others. So
Right.
so in day-to-day life, it is not the war that is a bigger question, but it is, everyday life, while crossing the road, somebody might, just shout at us. So is that himsa?
Oh, absolutely. So, as Pujya Sabji says, Mana, Vacha, and Kaya. So these are the three means or modes through which one can perform actions, and as well as Himsa or Ahimsa. So, there's one principle in Tattva Bodha which is called Dhamma. So,
Okay.
for example, if you have to control your Vacha,
Mm-hmm.
then like okay, let's suppose, right, you have an argument with a person and it's like a close friend of yours, and
Yes.
you have this motivation to like really shout at them or something, or maybe hit them, I don't know, something of that sort, something violent through your
Yes.
bodily actions. So then in your mind, though the anger is seething, right, it's bubbling through into your mind, but you still have control over your expressions, and therefore Damaha is the control of the senses, the control of the expression.
Okay.
So then, of course, the ideal thing would be that the negative thought itself does not arise in the mind in the first place. But then we cannot stifle a thought once it has already arrived, right? That comes with practice, it comes with time. So while the negative thought or the harmful, the himsakari thought is there in the mind, one has to at least be at the level of controlling its expression through the speech or through your body. And
Okay.
this is what we call Dhamma. So that is the first way to address it. The second thing is that okay, you've controlled it. That means you sat on top of it. Now the pressure is building, right? Sometimes it may just be a relief to say something mean to somebody and get done with it. But we know that that is not good, and therefore we need to find a way to let out the pressure. So Pujya
Okay.
Swamiji actually says this, that if you ever come to face with such a situation, write something out on paper, right? All your
Yes.
agony, so you want to shout at somebody, you want to write some bad words, write it out on paper and throw it
Okay.
away in the garbage. So what has
Yes.
happened is that you externalized the problem. It is
Okay.
out of your mind, and nobody else is suffering as a result of it. You've just thrown it away. So that is, of course, a good remedy for sure.
Okay.
So next time you want to call somebody a fool or an idiot, like just write it on paper that this person is an idiot, like crumple it and
Uh,
throw it away.
yes.
And
So I think so.
eventually, yeah.
So finally, eventually, our aim should be even the thought should not come out.
Yes, and
So
that will
we
only come through Shamaha. So that is like
Shamaha.
control of the mind.
Okay.
And there are different ways to cultivate that. One of them is that you cultivate a Vipareet Bhavana to whatever negative emotion you are facing. For example, if you are jealous of somebody, then you
Okay.
try to tell yourself in your own mind that I'm so happy that this person has these things. It's a result of his own karma, and good for him. So you try to cultivate the opposite attitude of something that's negative, and that way, slowly, slowly, you will find that becoming more compassionate over time. So compassion is not something that is unnatural to us, right? We are born with compassion, but then we get conditioned through social changes and through like things that people tell us and the expectations that society has upon us.
Yes.
So like for example, the rat race, right? See, back then, let's take the example of Vedic society versus now. Back then, if you were born a Brahmin, you were most likely studying the Shastras, you were a teacher and you taught the Upanishads and the Vedas and so on. And that's how you spent your life. You did not compete with the guy who was a king or the guy who was a farmer. Now,
Exactly.
similarly, if you were a Kshatriya, it was a fact that you will be a soldier, you'll be a king, you'll be a minister, you'll be some role where you're protecting the country. And if you were a
Now,
blacksmith's son, you will be a blacksmith, right? So the thing
yes.
is that you were not jealous, ki, okay, this guy is having this and you're having that. But now we live in this very capitalistic society, which is fine. I like capitalism, but we are also living in a consumerist, materialistic society. And so that means that when somebody has something more than you, then automatically your self-worth is lowered in comparison. And so that's how these sentiments come about, right? So one should rationalize, one should be able to understand that we are in the position that we are doing what we can. This is the situation, it's a given. And that's an objective way of looking at life. And so the more objectivity you develop, the more control you will have over the manasic issues.
Uh, I would like to mention one trend that I have been observing of late.
Yeah,
So these liberals usually restrict themselves to ahimsa at the deeds level. So they go on to say that I need not follow ahimsa at the at the thoughts level or at the words level. I can abuse anyone. I have the right to abuse anyone how much ever I want to, and I can think about abusing anyone how much ever I want to. But I should not be abusing someone at the physical level. So, but the hello.
yeah,
Okay, so but I feel there are several pitfalls with this kind of an argument. Which is why Shastras have recommended ahimsa at the deeds, words, as well as thoughts level. So, because if you have it at the thoughts level, one day or the other, it's going to find its expression. And if you have it at the words level, there's no way you're going to engage with someone whom you want to engage with. So this, I think, is the primary reason why it should be dealt at all three levels rather than at the physical level alone. So,
yes,
and
yes.
that's why it's a dharma.
No, that's a very good observation, and I agree with that completely. Um, we see that trend in society today, right? Especially as you say that a lot of people treat violence only at the physical level. They have not given any importance to the other two. And so this is more of a holistic approach where we are pacifying our tendency towards himsa on every possible level. So if we see this kayana, vacha, and manasa, these can easily be mapped onto your layers of personality also, as Swami Paramatmaji talks about. And so these are the three layers of expression through our various personalities as a jiva, and whatever values we cultivate have to be um, manifested in all three. So yes, absolutely, good point. Any other discussions on this so far? Okay, shall we move on to the next one?
Yes, sure.
All right. So yeah, can you read this?
Yes, sure. Vegetarianism, expression of ahimsa. Vegetarianism is an example of the application of the value for ahimsa. Many arguments in favor of a vegetarian diet can be made, but the basic argument supporting non-flesh eating is simply ahimsa. In India, where there are more vegetarians than anywhere else in the world, vegetarianism is squarely based on the Vedic mandate, himsa na kuryat, do not harm. Kuryat. Okay. Why is more himsa involved in eating an egg than an eggplant, or a steak than a pumpkin? Every life form requires food of some kind. One life form feeds upon another. What is tragedy to the bird is dinner to the cat. This being the case, why should not human being also eat meat? Because the human being is not in the same choiceless category as the canary eating cat, he cannot use the cat's example for his justification. For the cat and other non human life forms, choosing what to have for dinner is no problem. They select their proper food by instinct. They come pre programmed, knowing their proper menu. They need only locate it. This is not so with a human being, whose self-consciousness brings into play a will free to choose many means to achieve life's ends, including the basic need, food. Being not pre-programmed, the human being must choose the kind of food he eats. Several arguments other than ahimsa are offered to support the position that vegetarianism is a better diet than meat eating. There is evidence that human dental and digestive systems are more suitable for a fruit, grain, vegetable diet than for meat. There is statistical evidence that vegetarians, such as the Seventh day Adventists, have fewer degenerative diseases and live longer, enjoying a more vigorous old age than do their meat eating neighbors. However persuasive these arguments may be, the fundamental argument in favor of vegetarianism still is found in the value of ahimsa.
It's how true, and there's a lot to discuss here. So, um, I suppose most of you are vegetarian here, so I don't want to be offending anybody.
No, all vegetarians.
Okay, good, wonderful. I mean, honestly, that is the way to be. And so, could all of you individually share why you believe vegetarianism is the choice for you?
Shall I go first?
Yeah, please.
Uh, it was initially being born into a vegetarian family. It was not a choice in the beginning, but later when you see friends having non-vegetarian food, there was there was no what do you call like towards that. And now when there is choice, I have chosen again to remain a vegetarian. Remain even away from egg, and even cakes with egg, etc.
Okay.
So it's just like you're troubling. Eating, having a product of an animal is different from having the entire animal as a whole. So people have this conflict with products. Why is egg is a product? So why can't you eat eggs? You eat products of plants. Even kill plants. Plants also have life, and this argument is usually there. Even at office and everywhere else.
Right.
Any argument with non-vegetarians, you're also eating a life form. You believe that everything there is life. Even a plant is living being. So why are you eating plants? Then you should not eat anything.
Right.
So this is a futile argument. This is a useless argument. There's
So,
no
so here's
need
a
against.
question. Why would you say, and again, we're just trying to arrive at a good argument. So why would you say it's a futile argument? Like suppose I pose the question to you that,
Yes.
okay, you are eating plants, you're killing plants, and I'm killing animals. So why is it better to kill one versus the other? So what is a good argument, do you think?
Actually, see, we need something to live. Every living thing needs something to live on.
Yes.
Right from the individual cell, from an amoeba to a paramecium to the complex human form, we need some food to live, and it is just what is necessary. So whatever is necessary is available from plants, and you need not go to the next level of having hurting another life, which is a more complex form of life.
Exactly. And this is exactly well put. This is the thing that many people following a Western philosophy do not understand. They treat all life forms as one. And this is a very superficial example to give because let's you hit the nail when you said complexity, right? If I eat spinach or if I eat lettuce leaves tomorrow, they don't have nerve endings. There is no pain involved. But if you eat an animal, clearly it is trying to escape from you. It is writhing in pain. It is struggling to get away from you. It does not want to be eaten. And therefore, it is just very wrong to pursue this course of action, right? Because you clearly see that himsa is being performed. Animals form relationships with their peers. They form relationships with their parents, if it can be mentioned in that way. So if you ever go to a slaughterhouse, you'll see that when the cow is taken
Being,
away for slaughter. Sorry?
yes, it's being slaughtered, so it realizes that it experiences pain and it can perceive pain even before it happens to it.
Yes.
So it
Uh,
can understand that there is a something is going to happen. That kind of a, it wriggles out of that place, or it tries to escape. Whereas a plant in that case cannot perceive pain.
yes.
Or
Can I add a point here?
Yeah, yeah.
yes,
So I think a more rigorous way of arguing this out will be that. So, for example, uh, some I don't know. I think it is Bose. So he was suggesting at one point that plants have life or something.
Right.
So, but the main so the way he was trying to prove it is these plants, some kind of a plant when heated up, it gives some certain kinds of reactions. So just because something gives a certain kind of a reaction, it doesn't mean it experiences pain. So the main difference between a plant and an animal here is that animals have a central nervous system, which
Right.
humans also have, and this central nervous system is responsible for the experience of pain. So this is one of the well understood facts, and plants do not possess a central nervous system and hence do not experience pain.
Exactly. And that should be the primary argument for
And
supporting vegetarianism.
so other arguments which go in favor of vegetarianism is its impact on the environment, the carbon footprint kind of arguments.
Right.
So, for example, you have to. So, suppose you want to rear cows for meat. So you will have to feed in more plants for the cow compared to the case where you were to eat the plants directly.
Yes.
So, and you'll need a larger geographical space to rear them than when you are a vegetarian.
Yes, absolutely.
Agreed to Nityaji's points and Abhinavji's points, and very rightly said that plants are less complex than animals. And we also need to understand that animals, like they always, even the smallest animal, they will try to escape from you. If you see any person trying to kill it, they will try to escape. Whereas, and we also need to understand that as a person, we don't want ourselves to be killed by any animal. So same way, any animal would not want to be killed by us. So that is something one needs to always think before attempting any act. So I've seen like literally goats getting slaughtered. So that the sight, I don't know how people can manage to do it, but it's a very terrible sight.
and just a note to add on that, most of the non-vegetarians can never digest an animal being killed.
Yeah. In
They
fact,
like it on a
Paul
plate.
McCartney, you remember the quote by Paul McCartney, right? He said that if slaughterhouses were made of glass walls, everybody would turn to vegetarianism.
Yes, yes.
And I've encountered this a lot of people. There's one, in fact, I highly suggest watching this documentary. I'm going to post it for you all. Please watch it in full. Try to share it. Try to get it out as much as you can. It's one of the best things that have ever been
Is it
produced.
conspiracy?
Earthlings, Earthlings.
Earthlings.
Earthlings. Okay, I heard there's also. I mean, these are the two popular documentaries going on in support of vegetarianism. So one is
Which
this
is the other one?
conspiracy
Tell me the
and
name.
Cowspiracy.
Cowspiracy. Okay,
CO,
okay.
yeah,
Let
and
me.
this Earthlings documentary. I haven't seen them, but I've come across discussions on vegetarianism by sensible people who usually point out to these two documentaries to have to build the ground for supporting vegetarianism.
Right.
And also, I would also like to discuss about what's going on with this vegan diet because I really don't understand how. I mean, to what extent cows are tortured for milk and all that.
Okay,
So, do you have any thoughts on that?
I have six rungs over here that we should really focus on. First, as you like rightly mentioned, the main argument against vegetarianism or against non-vegetarianism should be ethical, right? You talked about the central nervous system, the J.C. Bose, the electrical experiments he performed, and they
Yep.
saw that. So one mistake that all of these people make when they quote his argument is they say that, okay, you have this mimosa plant where you touch it and it kind of like moves. And so
Yeah.
they kind of give that very anthropomorphic feel. And the thing is, it
Correct.
is only responsiveness to stimuli, but not the same as ours, because ours is based on a central nervous system. Whereas what happens is when you touch the plant, when there's a pressure area, the pressure area sets off a chain of positive ions. So, you'll probably have like, not phosphorus, but calcium ions or potassium ions or magnesium ions. These ions start getting um, they start entering the membrane and they stiffen the plant. So the plant gets very stiff or it bends or whatever, right? So this is
Mhm.
actually only a responsiveness based on pressure, and this pressure is based purely on biochemistry. That's all. It's a biochemical movement that's caused due to pressure. Similarly, if you see sunflowers, they are always facing the sun. When the sun rises, it follows the path of the sun until sunset. And so this is again simply responsiveness to stimuli, but not based on a central nervous system. So what you said was very important, that humans, animals, worms, whatever you want to call any form that is not a plant, is able to experience a lot of pain because of the fact that they have a central nervous system and because they are complex creatures, as Nityaji put it. And so the first real reason for anybody to go vegetarianism should simply be that it's a very wrong thing to do. It's a wrong thing to cause pain to other people. If you don't want pain to be caused to yourself, then you should also avoid causing it to other people. If that argument does not appeal to people, which heavens knows why, but many times people say that, so what? This is the law of nature, right? The tiger eats the cow, the human eats the chicken. It's okay. It's the way the world works. One has to take that in good stead. That is a very fallacious argument because we have the ability to make this choice. If you ask a cow that would you like to eat chicken, the cow will not even look at it. Even if the cow is dying of hunger, it will not eat meat. It will continue eating its grass and plant products. Similarly, if you ask a lion that you want to eat grass, even if it's dying of hunger, it will not be able to do that just because its build is like that, right? So we
Its
as
basic
human beings are
nature,
blessed
it's
with the
like that.
faculty of choice. Exactly,
Right.
it's a genetic programming. They don't have that questioning ability. They don't have that uh, a developed mind enough to question their choices, and that's why Vedanta says, Shastra says that animals cannot perform dharma, they cannot pursue moksha. Right? Dharma is a de facto expression of their life. In whatever an animal does, it is only dharma just because it is what it's doing, and it is meant to do this. An animal cannot choose to perform dharma, and that is the important part. We have choice over dharma, whereas an animal performs dharma by de facto nature. So a human being can choose to be hurtful, a human being can choose to be kind, a human being can make far more choices than any other animal or plant can. So if we have this choice, if we have these questions posed in front of us that what kind of diet should we choose and these are the various factors that are involved, then obviously as a human being we cannot compare ourselves to animals. That animal does it, therefore we should do it as well. And why are we picking the animal? Why are we saying that okay, because a lion eats another animal, so we should eat it? Why not look at animal like cow? So that also brings about some kind of inconsistency in that argument. So the thing is that what is lawful is not always ethical, and this is a very important point to remember. Pujya Swamiji said that in one of his talks, that laws may not always correspond with ethics. It may be lawful in my country to eat meat, to eat cows, to eat buffaloes, to eat horses, to eat whatever, but that doesn't mean it's ethical. Laws are simply uh, an expression of the majority want of society, but society may not always want the right thing, and therefore one has to follow their own ethical conduct. The second thing Abhinavji touched upon also was the environmental and ecological impact, right? So first is the impact on agricultural farmland, and I have these statistics. In fact, I'll probably share my screen with you later. I did a research paper during college about like 30, 35 pages on the impact of eating non-vegetarian food upon the environment. So the first thing is if you have an animal, you have to feed it. A lot of people say that if you don't eat animals, they will overpopulate. That is complete and utter rubbish because in older days and what we have only had slaughterhouses for a very small fraction of the history of the planet, right? Not even a minuscule amount of time has passed. If you look at a Earth's history of 4.5 billion years, we've only started rearing animals in slaughterhouses in the past like 150 or 200 years. So if animals coexisted with human beings for such a long period in history when we were hunter and gatherers, when we used to not even have agricultural land, then the argument that animals will overpopulate if we don't eat them is futile. It's a completely debunked argument. It doesn't make any sense. The other argument is that yeah,
Prashanti, so I mean, just adding to what you said, so that's a futile argument because animals are getting rare for getting slaughtered.
right.
So you're not. So people are not slaughtering animals because of overpopulation of animals. They're actually artificially increasing the population of animals and then slaughtering them.
Exactly. That is so correct, right? You produce something and then you kill it and then you say that we are reducing the population. In fact, the cows we have today present are probably 45 to 50 times more than the cows we had in the natural wild. So the cows that are being reared, as you put, are a huge number compared to what they would exist in the natural form in nature itself. So that is one argument for sure. Definitely, it's a very deep impact that we've actually changed the entire footprint of the species. Can somebody
And
unmute me, please?
coincidentally, just
Oh, sorry.
this week, yes.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, just last week there was an documentary on in the news channel of how chickens are artificially bred, and they are injected with a lot of antibiotics, and it's harmful to eat chicken because they're filled with so many antibiotics so that they grow well, and they produce a lot of meat, and they become it's easier to sell them, and they look good actually.
Yes.
So
I
it's
think
harmful.
I think that's the same case with producing milk from cows too. So I've heard that
Yes,
cows are injected with hormones to produce more milk, and
yes,
also
yes,
they're fed with so they're milked using machines, and to fight the infections that they get due to mechanized milking, they feed them with antibiotics. So all
yes.
sorts of trouble for the cows.
Right.
True.
So, let's just go through this point by point. So, see, we covered the environmental reason, well, part of it. The second thing is that when we grow plants, they take up only a small surface area. In fact, 65 to 70% of all agricultural land is not used to feed human beings. It's actually used to feed livestock. And that livestock only amounts to probably like 10 to 15% of one's calorie value. So you get that, right? That most of the food that we produce goes to feed animals, and those animals only account for a very small portion of our diet actually as a global species. So we are wasting tremendous amounts of farmland. The second thing, as Abhinavji pointed out, that we are rearing animals in large numbers. And one thing is a given fact, it's a law of thermodynamics that energy is conserved, but a lot of it is lost through heat. So, you can never have a perpetual motion machine, as we know. And so when you feed an animal, the calories that come from the plant are lost to the environment through body heat. When animals respire, when they release heat to the environment, 90 to 95% of that calorie value is lost to the environment in the form of entropy. And what remains is a very small fraction that is eaten. Right? So we've already covered the ethical reason why it's not good to eat animals, but here we are covering the environmental reason. The third thing is if you neutralize the animal, the blood of the animal that is spilled from the slaughterhouses, a lot of changes are made to the chemistry of the water as well when you release it into the rivers, when you release it into the oceans. And this has created many issues. In fact, it has reduced the oxygen content of the rivers. The fishes start dying, the rivers and the water gets polluted. So that is another problem. This is never found in plant matter, right? So even if you were to dump an entire truck of plants into the river, it would simply decompose and form part of the soil, the river banks. But the same animal, if you let out the neutralized blood with all the chemicals added, it completely changes the biochemistry of the water, and even the creatures in the water cannot survive very well. The third argument people use, especially in the West and now even in India, in fact, there was one person who came over to my place. He was like big time into cycling, and and he used to consume eggs every morning. So once he came over and he asked my mom if we have eggs, and we are like pure vegetarians. So we said, no, sorry, we don't keep eggs and all, and you better not bring any non-vegetarian food at our place also. We were very clear about that. So I asked him, then why do you need to have eggs? He's like, it has protein so that I can cycle long distances and stuff. uh, Eggs only have high protein content as far as it being compressed into a small uh, food is concerned. But if you look at all the essential amino acids, they are only found in vegetarian products. If you look at soybeans contain all essential amino acids that the body cannot synthesize, which have to come from the environment. So there are 20 amino acids, right? And that the human being requires. And out of that, I think 9 or 11 cannot be synthesized by the body, which have to come from outside. And I think either 9 or 11 of those are synthesized by the body. And so the essential amino acids, no non-vegetarian food has complete essential amino acids. This can only be found in most of the vegetarian products. So that is another argument. Now, I'd like to talk about what both of you mentioned about the egg industry, right? Or rather, let's talk about the milk industry first. So I am a vegan personally, and the reason is it's a choice that I made after several years. When I buy milk, it is procured by literally torturing the cows. You have these growth injecting hormones, which produce higher yield of milk. And so when the cows are injected with these hormones, all sorts of side effects take place. Many cows die of heart attacks because of this, because their hearts get enlarged, because their blood vessels are enlarged, and they develop different disorders. They get high blood pressure. We are so anthropomorphic in our way of understanding things that we only believe that human beings fall sick, that we get cancer, we get heart attacks, we get cardiac arrests, and we get like strokes and whatnot. But every animal is also inclined to be fraught by the same diseases as we are. And so these hormones have a lot of negative impact upon the animal, a lot of side effects. The second thing is when the cows stop giving milk. Okay, this is a very sad part, but the cows are impregnated over and over again by these metal rods that are inserted into them, which are filled with bull semen. And the cows are impregnated because only pregnant cows can yield a lot of milk. And so every time a calf is born after impregnation, the calf is killed immediately and it is sold away as a meat. So the meat of a young cow is called veal, or a calf that's called veal. And they sell that, and it's supposed to be low quality meat. It is still very tender and stuff. So they sell that away quickly, and oftentimes you see that cows are suffering in pain to see their little one being taken away from them. So of course this is very painful. Imagine if this were done to a mother, a human being. You take away the child and send it away for slaughter. It's very painful for any creature to experience this. And so that is what is done. Now, when the cow grows old and it is not able to yield milk any longer, right? Because even human beings have a period until which they can yield milk, and then after that it's not there any longer. So when the mammary glands of the cows are dried up, then they themselves are sold for meat. And therefore, if a person is consuming milk, at least in US or most of the Western countries around the world, not Western, but even the Eastern countries, like even in Singapore, I'm sure the same case is there, where it's tied in with the beef industry. So anytime you consume milk, you're actually subsidizing the costs of the beef industry because you are able to maintain the growth and all these other things of the cow until it is able to yield milk, and then you sell it off to the beef industry, and then it's sold for cheaper. And so by buying milk, you're actually reducing the cost of beef. And if you reduce the cost of beef, you're actually increasing the purchases, right? It's a principle of demand and supply. When the cost goes down, the demand will increase. So this is how drinking milk is actually injurious to the cow. And so is there an option? Yes. Find a gaushala. Find a place where cows are taken very well care of, and every day you can get fresh milk from that place. There are some gaushalas in Bombay, I know. There are some gaushalas in every city in India. So if you are able to take the time and effort to find one where they actually take care of the cows even after they are aged until they die, then yes, by all means, go and consume milk. There's nothing wrong in that. But for the most part, in the industrialized world we live in, the milk industry is tied in with the slaughterhouse industry, and therefore it should be definitely avoided if one has to follow the principle of ahimsa. The other argument a lot of people say is that I don't eat meat, I only eat eggs. I'm sorry, but eggs are also considered meat only. An egg has the potential to turn into an embryo. An embryo grows into an adult chicken. So it's like eating a human fetus. Now, the other argument is that what if the egg is not fertilized? It's still meat because, if a person were to give a very gross but accurate example, the periodical cycle of a woman is equivalent to this egg, right? It is actually an egg which is not fertilized. And so if the just I probably don't need to draw the comparison, but it's evident to everybody that it's actually the period cycle of a chicken that is being consumed in the form of an egg. How can that be vegetarian? It's beyond me. The third futile argument is I don't eat eggs except in cakes. It's self-explanatory and it's definitely hypocritical. There are some products we should definitely avoid. Leather, instead of leather, get fox leather. Fox, not like or made of fox, but I mean, fox means fake. It's a French word. So try to get something, for example, if I buy shoes, I make sure that it is not made of leather, it's made of some other material. Ivory, try avoiding uh, purchasing ivory products because animals are poached for that, especially elephants. And recently, last week, the African rhino is officially extinct because of poaching. So the poaching usually happens in places like Africa and to some extent in India as well. So, if we cut off the demand for ivory, then there will be no motivation to procure it from animals. Avoid silk if you can, because there used to be a time when the silk industry was still ethical, but now what they do is they drop the cocoons of the silkworms into this hot boiling pot of water, and obviously the insect inside dies, and what comes out is that these strands of silk are separated, and long flowing strands of silk come out when you boil them. But now, another way to really do it is that you allow the silkworm to hatch, come out of the cocoon, escape from there, and then you use the cocoon to create silk. But that creates a problem because when the silkworm has to come out of the cocoon, it breaks the strands to come out, and therefore they are not as long and flowing, and therefore they're not considered high quality. So the highest quality of silk that is sold in China and around other parts of the world, they actually include dropping these live animals into this boiling pot, and they die inside the cocoon and then it's separated. So, I think in India also it is very common, even in places where you chadavafai, like chadavafai means, sorry, most people are not Hindi speakers here, but you place a silk shawl on Bhagwad's idol, or you give it to your guru or something, right? These things should be avoided because if you are to keep up with ahimsa, then one has to change their methods also in time.
Even wearing silk saris, like
Yes.
very often women are very fascinated by pure silk, because I had been to South long back when I was in school, and then I questioned myself, like why does one need to really buy pure silk saris? So even if we consider sari as a traditional dress, but then considering what material it is made up of and what harm it is doing to this to these animals, so yeah, one needs to really question.
Yes.
I would like to add here that Kanchi Paramacharya so the erstwhile Shankaracharya of Kanchi Mutt, Sri Chandrasekhara Saraswati Swami, so he too recommended people doing away with silk.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation because I still see a lot of people in other bhattams also using silk and the gurus don't say anything. So this is very admirable of the Shankaracharya to make such a statement. The other thing Abhinavji touched upon is the global warming, right? So this is part of the research I had done. I think everybody can see my screen. About 56 to 60% of all global warming impact is a result of meat eating by the methods of slaughtering animals and the transportation of animals. This is what accounts to the majority of our global warming effect. So, in summary, if you really look at it, like I probably don't want to bore everybody with the numbers over here. But the thing is, if you look at the calorie values, or if you see the environmental impact, or if you see the ethical argument, you see the nutritional argument, you see just the cruelty involved around the whole industry, there should not be even a small inkling of a doubt that eating animals is the same as eating plants. I just appeal to everybody, whoever is watching this, that if you can make a choice, like please make a choice that is supporting ahimsa over here.
Yeah, and
So
also vegetarian diets, no, they are very much low in fats and cholesterol. So if we see research, it has been shown that people who eat non-veg are more prone to obesity, heart disease, and other sorts of diseases as compared to people who are vegetarians. So, I mean, yeah, there are more reasons to be a vegetarian than to be a non-vegetarian. Being a non-vegetarian is just a choice which people make, and now they have try to make it a part of their life. So they
Yes.
don't now question, and then they are just following the rat race. Otherwise, I don't see any reason one should really follow non-vegetarianism in their diet.
Yes. So we have to target different rungs. The first, I believe, the highest rung, highest reason is ethical. We already spoke about that. If a person is a moral relativist, in the sense that they say, okay, this life form is equal to that life form, you cannot argue with the person, though you know he's wrong. You know ethically he's wrong, but he does not have this sense of ethics. So then you have to move over to the environmental reason that, okay, this is very objective. There is absolutely no subjectivity involved here. Clearly, eating meat has a negative footprint upon the environment. Your carbon footprint increases, your global warming increases, you are polluting the rivers, you are polluting the land, you're using up all the agricultural land for this, and people are going hungry. In fact, I can make a bold statement that if every single person stopped eating meat, nobody on this planet would go hungry. There would be excess and abundance of food for everyone, just because so much land is being taken away to rear animals which give rise to a very small amount of your consumed calories. If this all actually went in producing vegetables, the food cost would be so highly subsidized. It would be available all over the world. If the environmental ecological reason doesn't work, then you have to go over to more selfish reasons, right? For people that, okay, if you eat meat, it's bad for you. See, in the first case, you are concerned about the animal's welfare. In the second case, you're concerned about the environmental welfare. I believe both of these should take the first run. But in the third case, you're a selfish person and you're concerned about your own health. Even if that is the case and that is enough to make you a vegetarian, sure, let's use that argument. It is bad for your health. As Unnati said, anytime you go to a doctor, if you have a heart disease, if you suffered a cardiac arrest or anything of that sort, the first thing the doctor will tell you is give up meat, especially red meat. Give it up. Sustain a vegetarian diet. So many people, celebrities and all who have like gone through such therapies, they've turned vegetarian. Not because they love the environment or they love the creatures, they love themselves. So even for the sake of yourself, if you can, become a vegetarian. Ultimately, this is the right choice to make on any of these levels. So yeah. Unnati, do you want to read this one?
Yeah, I'll start. Plant food, the rational, ethical choice for human diet. In view of the research indicating that a balanced vegetarian diet is complete and healthful, the use of meat in my diet cannot be justified on the basis of nutritional need. If I choose to eat meat, that choice must be put simply on the grounds of my preference on my part. To fulfill a preference is fine if there is no overriding ethical reason for not fulfilling it. In the case of meat eating, there is a strong common sense ethical reason for not fulfilling such a preference if it exists. Since I do not want to be an animal's dinner, I should not make an animal my dinner. Plant food rather than meat is the choice because many plants seem designed to give up their produce as food for other life forms without surrendering their own lives. And even when the usage does destroy the plant, plants would appear to have less conscious appreciation of the threat or fact of harm to themselves than do animals. If I insist upon including meat in my diet, to raise such a decision to ethical status, I would have to put myself on the same basis as other carnivorous animals. To be on the same basis, I should hunt and kill my prey barehanded without the assistance of weapons, thus exposing myself to the possibility of being someone's dinner while seeking other creatures for my dinner. If I am not willing to do this, use of animals for food will be unethical, conflicting with my half value for non-injury. That I have such a half value is revealed by my failure to risk the possibility of suffering the same result.
So you see why Pujusamji says half value over here?
Yeah, because one does not want themselves to be hurt. So that value is already present. So
Yes.
if you have that value present, how can you, kill other animals? Because then there is a conflict.
Yes. It's hypocrisy.
Right.
Absolutely. And yeah, if in the olden days it is true that human beings were hunter-gatherers, People did eat meat. I'm not denying that. I'm not saying that one shouldn't also. If there are still some tribes, there are still some islanders where the soil is so saline that there is no possibility for them to cultivate any vegetables. And we have seen a few examples of that even in the islands around the New Guinea area. The soil is not very uh, great for some of the common plants we see today, especially things such as the crops, wheat, rice, and so on. So people, hunt for fish. Now, if you have some people living in the Arctic region or closer to the Antarctic, and there it's all barren, it's all covered with ice, and then of course you have to, how these Eskimos eat, right? They dig a hole into ice, and then they drop their bait or whatever, and then they pull a fish out when it bites the bait. And so, obviously, in an icy region, you cannot grow plants, and therefore, for your own sustenance, for your own survival, you need to eat animals, and that is completely fine. That is in keeping with ahimsa. But the extrapolation should not be global because you have different geographical regions where this is no longer required. 99% of us who or probably greater than that, 99.99% of everybody who's probably participating in any of these sessions or who's on the internet and who's having Facebook and a Gmail account, I'm sure that they don't live in an environment where they have to go and hunt for their food. And that they are able to sustain themselves just on pure vegetarian diet because of the availability of food around. And so this excuse should not be used. But at the same time, if we have some extreme cases such as people living in the Arctic, people living on islands where you have like plenty full of fish but not enough vegetarian food to sustain your body, then certainly it is ethical for you to hunt for that animal. But the hunting is not the same as a slaughterhouse because when you hunt, you're giving an instant end to that animal, right? Even in that sense, when you have a slaughterhouse, the animal is reared there from birth till the time it is dead, till the time you kill it, rather. And so the whole life of the animal is basically spent in those depraved conditions, very unhygienic conditions. All of them are pushed into this little coop. If you have chickens, in fact, I'll probably mention a few things. When you have a chicken in a slaughterhouse, all of their beaks are pecked off by a hot rod. So, they are like put on this conveyor belt, and people have these, heated scissors or knives, and they cut off the beaks. And this also causes a lot of pain to the chicken. But the reason is that when they get frustrated, they start pecking at each other. And so that creates a nuisance for the people in the slaughterhouse. So they remove all the beaks. Similarly, if you have pigs, that this is mean, but they actually cut off the testicles of the pigs just to reduce the libido content so that they may not mate over there and create more issues or whatever. So this is what they do. Same thing they do to many bulls also. And the bulls are mainly used not for meat, but they are used for the impregnation of the cows. And the semen is forcefully extracted from the bulls and it's inserted into the cows. Again, we already spoke about this. So it's a very cruel industry. There's no honor involved over there. At least there's some honor in hunting for your own food if you're not able to procure vegetarian food, or if you're a gatherer and you can only grow crops when you have settled down in a civilization. There are still some nomadic tribes that move from place to place, and obviously if you're continuously on the move, you cannot grow crops because it takes a while for them to grow and you're already in a different place, and you may not be able to sustain all the fruits available over there. So yeah, these tribes do hunt, and that's completely fine. But I want to highlight the fact that slaughterhouses are never fine. Slaughterhouses are the greatest mass genocide that humans have committed. People talk about the Jewish extermination. People talk about the extermination of different civilizations, but they don't point at themselves as a species and look at the way we are discriminating against other species, the way we are exterminating species for our own selfish motivation. So this has to go.
And a small snippet of information. I mean, you must have read it. I've just read it somewhere that we are just crossed 5,000 years in this Kali Yuga, and in the towards the end of the Kali Yuga, when humans will start eating other human beings. Such will be the compassion, the lack of compassion actually that we will be having. That we will start eating other human beings to satisfy our needs. So that is towards the fag end of Kali Yuga.
Yeah, very likely, based on the trend that we are seeing today and our complete insensitivity towards other creatures and towards other humans, I don't see. that not happening. I'm sure it's a possibility. In fact, recently, this is so sad, but there was a fatwa passed in the Islamic world where the mullah says that in case there's a lack of food and people are starving, the husband can eat the wife.
Oh my God.
This was a fatwa passed last week.
Prashantji, wasn't that a fake report or something?
No, no, no. It was an online fatwa that this person gave. He posted on the internet. But I will confirm that. But I mean, that is what have been making the news, and it was part of like news channels and all. Uh, let's check it out. I don't want to pass misinformation. So now there's one news report where he says eating wife, toilet paper, okay, and there's one where he says he denies the report. So yeah, possibly,
Prashantji, I think we can skip this.
yeah. So you could be right about that, but yes. So let's read the last section and close off there.
Okay.
Who's next? Uh, Jagdishwarji, are you there?
I'll read it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ahimsa requires sensitivity and alertness. The value of ahimsa requires a daily alertness and sensitivity in all areas of my life. It is a value that finds expression in my attitude towards plants as well as towards human beings and animals. Wanton destruction of plant life indicates a lack of sensitivity for the value of ahimsa. Ahimsa is a value for non-destruction or damage to any part of creation, a creation of which I too am a part. Plants I do not casually crush, strip, uproot, or cut down. With regard to my fellow human beings, I watch for those words or acts or even thoughts which may be hurtful. I develop a finer appreciation for the feelings of others. I come to see beyond my own needs to the needs of those around me. I treat all things and beings with sensitivity and appreciation of their common existence with me. With such an attitude, I become an alert. Can you please scroll up? I cannot see the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. With such an attitude, I become an alert, observant person with a sensitive, saintly mind, which is ready to hear and appreciate the truth of Vedanta. Ahimsa is an important value among the values that constitute the jnana for gaining self-knowledge.
So pretty much summarizes what we've been talking about.
Yeah, Prashant, can I add something?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, very good. Today I gathered a lot of information regarding ahimsa. Okay, I would like to add something more. Uh, like from the individual aspect, everyone's intellect basically knows that what ahimsa is. We know whatever. So basically, we are talking in a very larger scale. Uh, as an sadhaka or as an individual perspective, everybody knows casually like if you do this, this is harm. If somebody is hitting me, obviously I know that I should not hit. So people who does ahimsa also, they know in the back of the mind, intellect will be telling this is not right, this is not right. But only by overpowered by their own desire and overpowered by their own uh, desire level is more, and they get angry and they do himsa, or overpowered by a taste, the desire to eat. Everybody knows who talks, the person who talks about no vegetarian is non-vegetarian eating, non-vegetarian is right and all. But they back of their mind, their intellect also knows that this is wrong. So basically everybody knows, but only to they could not able to overcome their own pleasure. So for the feel of eating more meat, whatever, they already used to it. So they know very well. So basically the people, we cannot argue with the people who wants to eat. They are the number of people who eat meat and all that. It's a very huge level, and getting tense for these people. I've argued with many people. It's a useless argument actually. They will never come to understand. They have their own statements to prove this is right, this is right, this is right. So it is only they know very well and what is himsa, what is ahimsa. Only they cannot able to say no for that. They know very well. That is what I understand. And even the and it is like in the it's depends upon the maturity level also. Since we try to go towards the spiritual path, so the maturity level of the people who going towards the spiritual path is good enough, and their intellectual, they know intellectually it is not worth it. And this quality, if I have, this is going to obstruct my spiritual growth, that is for sure. Because one place I've read it, like even the mind is also a subtler material. Whatever we consume, the annamaya kosha gets the food. And if you're eating grosser food or like food like non-vegetarian, it is even going to obstruct your subtle body also. Subtle body is also a body which we cannot able to see. It is also made of a material only. So it is like this non-vegetarian food is going to all stop you, obstruct your spiritual growth also. That is what I think.
Yes. That's where Pujya Swamiji says that all of these values that we cultivate, ahimsa, it constitutes jnana in this perspective because it is used for the gaining of self-knowledge. And so, if we are given to not cultivating any of these values which are mentioned, then we are actually creating a badaka, an obstacle for us to towards moksha. So it leads to mental impurity for sure. And so ahimsa is probably the best of dharmas to cultivate over here. And people often neglect this effect that it actually has upon our chittam. We become very insensitive, we become very unkind, we become uncompassionate towards the world at large. So yeah, definitely what you're saying is absolutely true.
Above all that, this like it depends upon the himsa. Say it depends upon the maturity of the person also. Yeah, spiritual in a person in a spiritual path, if he is knowingly doing himsa, it is really the what I'm trying to tell is the result, the papa, the percentage, the intensity, how he is going to get, it is going to vary also. Like the people who doesn't know what himsa ahimsa, like overwhelmed by desire and they are doing it, and people who they don't have the way of surviving. It depends, like the result goes with the for the maturity of the person. The person who is in the knows very well this is not right and this is going to obstruct my spiritual path, and everything he knows. Like the mental maturity level is like a brahmana. Like mentally, a person who is brahmana, he knows it very well and it is going to obstruct it. It is going on the results will be the papa level. Intensity is going to depends upon the person's maturity. God is going to
Yeah.
what the when it comes to the what is the result of your action, the intensity is going to vary. A person who has got shudra maturity, he is going to get even he does a mistake, it is not going to hurt him more. But the person who is in that towards the level, towards the path of the spirituality, and he is brahmana towards path of spirituality, the results are going to be different. We have to think
Yeah.
in this aspect also, like
Yeah.
so the himsa is happening, still God is witnessing it also. And that aspect also I think we have to think. So many cows
Yes.
have been cut, and so many every day so many deaths are taking place, so many himsa is taking place, still God is witnessing everything. So we have to, I think we have to think in this aspect also, so that we'll get cooled out. Because I have talked to many people, this is not right, this is not right in many aspects, but people, they are overwhelmed with their desires and the taste, the pleasure and all. We will never make them convinced, because they will come back to us and they will come back with the different arguments to put something better. We don't have to talk to these guys who says no for this.
No, that is so true because as Swatma Vidyananda ji says, for the 2 inches of tongue that you have, you're willing to, cause so much pain to other living beings, and that's all, right? Once it's in your stomach, who's going to know whether, the food was tasty or it wasn't tasty, or whether it pleased your palate or not? So, for such a small momentary pleasure, if you're willing to cause so much tremendous pain to another living creature, that says a lot about your own emotional maturity. As far as arguing with people, I tend to never debate with such people, but at the same time, I do debate with them for the sake of the readers. So, for example, if I have online debates, uh, I don't ever hope to convince the guy I'm debating with, especially if it's on a subject of vegetarianism. But a lot of people who are able to read it, who get notifications, they get inspired and then they understand, okay, these are some arguments we can use against it. So I believe it's always good to get the word out, but there should also be a public to witness it. That's one of my strategies, I feel. And it has worked to a large extent because I know that at least 4 to 5 people I've spoken to, as a consequence, the readers have become vegetarian just because they felt that okay, the arguments were very compelling to them. You're right about completely right about it actually, that um, if one has to pursue moksha is sarvatma buddhi, right? To be able to see myself as a self of all beings. If that is the case, then how can I see another person suffer when it is nothing but a manifestation of my very self? And so we are actually distancing ourselves away from cultivating all the necessary qualities in order to pursue moksha by pursuing the qualities which are inimical to it, such as himsa. So yeah, that is a very important point to raise because even coming to like spirituality and coming to Vedanta, most students of Shastra, or at least uniformly, all their gurus will recommend a vegetarian diet for their own sattvic nature, to cultivate the sattvic nature. And eating meat will also have an effect upon your guna makeup. You'll become more rajasic, you'll become more aggressive, you'll become more restless in your thinking and your thought patterns, you'll become more insensitive towards the world. So these are all badhakas which will keep drawing us away from our ultimate pursuit. So yes, the spiritual aspect needs to be considered deeply. You also made a very important point about doing something consciously with a purpose as opposed to doing something without knowledge of it. So if I'm a student of Shastra, if I know that these are the values that have to be cultivated, then if I continue to do the wrong thing, I will gain more papa. It's, and the way I actually put this into example is that if you're walking on the road and you step on an ant by mistake, you will get a small amount of papa. That's why you come home and you say, right, that Ishwara, whatever mistakes I may have unintentionally done, like, please forgive me for that. That is fine. It will get wiped away if it was a mistake. But if you go out of your way to step on an ant, knowing that this is not good, there's an ant walking and I should not step on it, you do it, then the amount of pop-up increases because the intention is a multiplier. So, you have a degree of an action and the intention is a multiplier of that degree. And so if your intention is very negative, it's actually with an intention to hurt, or if you already have acquired knowledge of the fact that what I'm doing is harmful, then you will gain a lot more papam as a result of that action. So thank you for
Even Swami
raising that point. It's very essential.
Paramatma also says like it depends on the your ashrama also. Like you for a person who is grihastha, he has got some like allowance, like because he has to cook the food. While cooking food also, you bound to kill a lot of germs or worms. Like for a, it depends on the ashrama also. You're staying being in a sannyasa ashrama and you say I will kill hand that, and because you are not bound, because to that level of maturity you are not supposed to do it. For a grihastha, okay, there are some allowances, but you are not killing an animal or worm for your own taste or your own desire. You are in the process, you are doing it. So basically by while doing it, by we are not doing it consciously for some egocentric sort of desire. So basically allowance is the law, not that I have to kill anything. While walking without my knowledge I'm killing something, it doesn't mean it is going to have affect me. I don't know, yeah, because 100% I cannot tell you. Like it is like the Swami Paramatma also tell many times, like it depends upon the ashrama dharma, and without knowing we are doing. Basically there is no split in my own personality, that I don't have any guilt conscious that I did something like this. But there is no special personality coming in and tell you you are doing some papa something like that. Back of your mind, your intellect is not telling you anything.
Yeah.
That is how I see it.
And that sensitivity is important because, sorry, Nitya, you were saying something? Oh, okay.
No, nothing, nothing. Sorry.
I see. I saw you like. um, so, it's very important to cultivate the sensitivity because Pujya Swamiji or Swami Paramatma, one of them, said that the in the beginning you will feel a little bit of pain when you cause hurt to another living creature. This is pain that we should invite because only when we are able to empathize with other creatures, then we will know that the next time we'll be informed that yes, I should not do this. That little bit of pain will be a reminder that what I've done is wrong, and that will keep you from doing it. So if you see an animal being hit by somebody, then it should give you that little bit of pain. You should know that yes, this I still have some sense of humanity in me, which keeps me from seeing such a person even do such a thing to somebody else. Even if it's not me, even looking at somebody else cause pain to another person should cause some disturbance in my mind, just so that I can go ahead and condemn it. But of course, as a Vedantan, as we grow more and more in our Nishtha, that pain will also go away. It will be replaced by a fact. It's a factual thing that yes, this is wrong. And though I do not get pained by the situation of other creatures around me, I still have that enough viveka to know that this is incorrect. So a lot of people, I've seen people who have turned, especially Westerners, who have become vegetarian from non-vegetarianism. It has been as a result of that little pain that they've experienced. They've seen that there was one lady, she taught at Harvard University, and she used to be a non-vegetarian, of course, as most people born over here are. But one day she was eating a burger made of cows, and next to her, a small dog, like her pet, came and started like licking her foot. And then she became very compassionate towards the dog that, oh, dog, you're so cute and you're so sweet and all. And then she looked at her burger and she realized that this is a living creature that I'm eating. Would I be comfortable if my dog was over here in place of the cow? And so that caused her pain, and then that pain led to a better decision in the future. And she became a vegetarian. Not only that, she became a huge proponent of vegetarianism, giving lectures all over the world on TED Talks and universities, on campuses, all over the place. So welcome that and then dismiss it also. That's what I would say. The mistreatment of any living being, any creature, should cause us a little bit of disturbance enough to make a change. So be an activist, use the internet, use your social forums, use whatever you can to just spread the good word. And here we're not talking about proselytizing people to our faith. We are simply talking about being compassionate as a human being. And this is what sets dharma apart from everything else. Because if you look at the Abrahamic religions, if you look at Mother Teresa, for instance, her main focus, she said in a statement that my motivation is not to help people, but to what do you call it, to harvest souls for God. So that was the motivation of her so-called good actions, and that's fine. It had a positive consequence. But then the motivation for us is never to proselytize and to invite people into our fold that, okay, I'll help you, that you should become a Vedantin. Or if I'll do something, then you should go and pray to Shiva or whatever. No, you help because Dharma says that one should do this. Your positive actions are nothing but a manifestation of dharma, and there's no proselytization involved over here. So if you talk about vegetarianism, if you talk about dharma, if you talk about bhuta yagna or manusha yagna, all of these things are part and parcel of our dharmic traditions.
Yeah, agreed to that. And I also feel that first one should themselves try to, keep all the three levels in control, like the thoughts, words, and actions. So I personally take it that way, that first I try to exercise my thoughts, my actions, and my whatever I'm speaking. And then, yeah, at the same time, I'll try to, converse with people and try to make them understand, not to convince them, but just to present myself as a model that, okay, this is what I follow. It's up to you whether to choose it or not. But yeah, I have my reasons for it, and I strongly abide by those.
Very true. So any closing remarks on what we've discussed today? I, I know this is a very controversial topic because there are a lot of Vedantins also, not a lot, but there's a small minority, probably like 2% or so of Vedantins who still consume meat. And this is not meant to discourage them from their studies, but it's rather a mode of self-reflection where we look into our choices, we look into the validity of our choices and see if we can change them. So I hope everybody is able to take this in good stride.
Right.
I
So
think
shall
we should also include Vedantins who consume milk.
yes, yes. In fact, is anybody vegan over here?
I'm not a vegan. I consume yogurt, though not milk.
For me, it was a very gradual thing. So first I left off milk, and then if I'm eating upma or if I'm eating in Gujarati culture, we have dahi yogurt with a lot of vegetables. So my mom used to always put like a little bit of yogurt on the side, and reluctantly I ate it, knowing that okay, chalo, this is she's doing it. I can't really argue too much about it. So I consumed it for a while, but then I put my foot down eventually, and then I stopped yogurt also. But then I continued eating rotis with ghee. And I again thought that, okay, this is just a usual thing. She'll give it. I can't really put a stop to it. But then I said that, no, sorry, I will not be eating these ghee rotis. And I started bringing the food home. So I didn't complete it. So then she started replacing ghee with olive oil. So now I have rotis with olive oil. Then the last thing that was still left was paneer. So if we are having palak paneer, then it had paneer in it. And then one day I ate all the palak, but I left all the paneer behind. And so now she replaced the paneer with soy paneer. It's paneer made of soy instead of milk. So slowly, the thing is that, our own, and you see, this should have been a one-step thing. It should not have been so gradual. But I perhaps was not ready to let go of it so quickly, and perhaps my mother was not ready to let go of it so quickly either, mostly coming from her. So sometimes these baby steps also help. Uh, there's something called going cold turkey, right? So when a person is smoking, they say that okay, you should not give up your cigarettes immediately. You should like reduce the dosage. Instead of one pack, smoke half a pack. Instead of half a pack, smoke one cigarette, and slowly, you get out of it. But for many people, this does not work, and so they recommend going cold turkey. That you brace yourselves, you grit your teeth, and you just let go of it completely. And if a person is able to carry that through, and I believe non-vegetarian food also has an addiction. Like, I mean, any food, right? If I say tomorrow that you should stop eating idli for the rest of your life, you will feel that I'm missing something out in my life, right? Any food. So if you're used to eating chicken tikka also, you will feel that, oh, now I can't eat it. It's so tasty, it's so delicious. And the desire will draw you back to eating it. And so you just have to like grit your teeth for that while and until the temptation goes away. But the most important thing is that you cultivate a higher value for what you lose by eating it. What do I lose when I cause pain to another animal? And that is what has to be seen, not what I gain. I gain a few momentary doses of pleasure for a few seconds, for a few minutes. But what am I losing? I'm losing my chitta shuddhi. I'm losing my compassion. I'm losing my objectivity. I'm losing my sarvatma buddhi. That if I am the self of all beings, how can I cause pain to everybody else? So I'm losing so much. I'm losing so many values. I'm distancing myself away from moksha. So once you have a greater respect and a greater value for these values, then automatically you will have a disvalue for the things which are not values. And so that is the most superior way to let go of any negative habit. So we'll probably close off now. We can continue next time. It's already been an hour and a half. Then Abhinavji, we can actually discuss the Gita war if you like after this. So I'm just going to stop the broadcast.
Yeah, sure.
Om सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य
पूर्णस्य
पूर्णमादाय
पूर्णमादाय
पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते
पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ
ॐ शान्ति
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 शान्तिः
शान्तिः
हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः
श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः
हरिः
हरि
ॐ
ओम्